The Stack. People, Business, Technology. With Dan Tomaszewski of Everything MSP.
Hello, everybody. Dan Tomaszewski here with Everything MSP. Welcome back to another episode of The Stack, where we focus on people, business, and technology. Today, we are going to dive into a topic that many MSPs still treat like the necessary evil, and that is compliance. Most see it as a checkbox, a cost, or something you only worry about when a client brings it up. But what if, just what if, compliance could actually grow your business, not just protect it? So today we have not just one, but we have two special guests that I'm going to be bringing on here. They're going to help flip that script, and they're currently helping MSPs right now, day in, day out, with this topic. We have Michael Zabarski and also Jared Kastner, and we've got them both here with us. And how are you gentlemen doing today?
We're doing great.
It's great to have you here. You guys are both with Blacksmith InfoSec. You are the founders of the organization, but you guys are even cooler than that because you have your own podcast, right?
That is correct. I don't know if that makes us cooler or nerdier, but one of those two things is true.
Or nistier, right? Because the podcast, Get Nisty podcast. Can you guys give us, one of you tell us a little bit about the podcast?
Yeah, it's really a Q&A session, essentially, right? So we have gotten, over the last 2 years that we founded the company and really the decades before that of our experience, tons and tons of questions about cybersecurity and compliance from our friends, from our partners, from our colleagues. And this is really just a chance for us to give back and answer those questions and make compliance a little easier to understand and easier to swallow than the internet would have you believe it is otherwise.
Right. Well, I mean, because we all Google, right? You know, hey, what do we do for compliance? I mean, that's how we pull it together.
Look, and Dan, I don't know about you, but the internet has never lied to me. So,
right.
You know.
Exactly. And no, I love that. And, you know, and I think it is, you know, a topic that we all, you know, need to continue to sharpen our skills on because it's continuously changing by the minute. And, you know, the more that we can educate ourselves, you know, with podcasts like Get Nisty is great. And so, I mean, we're going to just jump in, you know, right away into the topic. I mean, you know, we do know, you know, to get started, so many MSPs, you know, go wrong. You know, you got, you know, what mistakes do you commonly see is my big question for you. So when they're getting into compliance, you know, ultimately, what is that first mistake that you see when they try that?
I mean, honestly, the first mistake, Dan, is that they don't do anything at all. They play ostrich. They stick their head in the sand and hope for the best. And that's not strategy. That is wishful thinking.
Right.
And so what we are constantly telling folks is, look, you cannot be secure without being compliant, and you can't be compliant without being secure. The two things go hand in hand, and you really have to take a structured and strategic approach to building your compliance program. Otherwise, it's just fancy. So, you know, how do you get into that, right?
Well, you know, I mean, as I led into the topic that there are MSPs out there that only bring this up when, you know, essentially a client brings it up. And, you know, certainly the wrong approach. I mean, we first and foremost need to be looking at those clients that we have that are under some regulatory, you know, compliance measures, and we need to be watching out for them. But, you know, yes, there are some extremes to all of that, but why not look at every client and look at them from a compliance perspective? I mean, because, you know, is it a disservice to say, well, you're not under any regulatory compliance, so we don't need to be as secure. We can be secure-ish, but secure-ish doesn't do the trick.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. So first of all, I would say most of your clients actually are under some sort of regulatory requirements, whether they know it or not, right? If you take credit card payments in any form, you need to be PCI compliant. That's the most common one. So every restaurant needs to be compliant with some sort of regulatory framework. There's CMMC, there's HIPAA, there's state level requirements in New York and Massachusetts and Tennessee, right? You got, and that's growing rapidly. So nearly every company has some sort of regulatory requirement, and that's just in the US, but nearly every company has some sort of regulatory requirement. Even if they don't, though, you're exactly right. These cybersecurity frameworks are really better thought of as risk management frameworks. how do I reduce the risk of operating my business, right? And I hear all the time people say, well, but Jared, my company's too small to be a target. No, your company's not too small to be a target. Your company's too small to be an intentional target, right? I'm not going to go after Blacksmith necessarily, like, unless, well, I mean, I've met Mike, so people might actually be coming after us. People,
Yeah.
most small businesses are right. Nobody's going out and saying, the corner drugstore, I'm going to go specifically target those guys because I'm really upset with them about something or other, right? They are correct that they are flying under the radar from that standpoint.
Right.
But there are all these script kiddies out there that are running and looking for just any holes in the armor anywhere along the way. And when they find something, they say, "Ooh, I found something," and they don't care that you're the corner drugstore or the mom and pop shop or anything else. They all they care about is that they found a hole in the armor that they can bury in their way into, and if they can get $100,000 or $1 million or $2 million out of you, great. And if they can't, it hasn't hurt them at all. They don't care whether your business sinks because they've encrypted all your data and you don't pay the ransom. Oh, well, like, no skin off their back. It does not bother them one bit, right? So that mindset of they don't care, the attackers don't care, is exactly the right thought process, but leading to the wrong conclusion.
Yeah, and what I always like to say is, they see an IP address, right? They're getting more sophisticated in their targeting. They see an IP address and they're seeing that hole that you're talking about. So, they don't know who you are. Like they almost feel like they know that I'm ABC Gardening Center of America. And, they act as if like, oh, they see what my annual sales are. They see how much I have in the bank. They see all the stuff and they're like, yeah, I'm going to move on to the next one, but that's just not how it works.
Exactly. Because again, they don't care about you or your business. It's not that you're too small to be a target. You're so small that you become the victim because you're not following the right processes. You're not thinking about things holistically. You're not building your business in a way that allows you to be secure and stable and grow. Right? They don't care that you're the Four Seasons landscaping. Right? Again, to your point, it's the IP address, and like a Four Seasons Resorts that has tons of money versus Four Seasons Landscaping that doesn't.
Right.
Who cares?
Right.
Exactly. I got in. Right now, if you're Bank of America, people are going to be coming after you. But if you're the corner store, they're not coming after you specifically. They see the IP address and they see the vulnerability and they go, "Great, I'm in."
Yeah,
Mike, you're going to add into that? Yep.
Yeah, one of the ways that we kind of talk with our partners and have our partners talk to their clients about all this, right, is like bring it home for them, right? Why do you lock your house door? Like, no one's trying to break into your house actively, right? You're not Bank of America. They're not trying to get into your vault. Why do you lock your house door? Because you don't want the guy that's walking by to open the door and walk in. It's the same idea, same principle, right? Like, it's those little things that you can do to deter the person that isn't actively trying to break into your home, but hey, there's an open door. Guess what? I'm going to walk in and grab a couple things.
Yeah, exactly. And, and I think the biggest challenge that we have, and we've talked about this before, is that what makes the news are those large enterprise organizations. And, I think MSPs need to get more stories out there. Yes, you can anonymize them, but need to get more stories that are local, that are small businesses, small and mid-sized organizations that look like the prospect or clients that you're getting in front of, because then I think that just helps them to understand that, okay, this does happen to, people like us, and it is more than just those large enterprises. And so I think that creates that misconception for many of the people that MSPs are getting in front of.
Well, but Dan, let's take that a step further, right? Because it's not just about being the victim of a cybersecurity incident. It's about just a week ago, we had the US East 1 outage for AWS. How much of the internet went down as a result because people didn't think about multi-region failover and secure backups and things like that, right? So whole businesses went offline for, I think that total outage was 14 hours, right? And then the cleanup afterwards was even longer than that, right? And so when you look at those types of things, it's not even about whether you are the victim of cybercrime. It is about, what does your overall resiliency look like? And so, again, it's we can talk about locking the doors, but Dan, tell me if the Everything MSP website went down, how much downtime is okay? Is an hour okay? Is a day okay? Is a weekend okay? What if it takes 2 weeks to get you back online? And you find that risk threshold that the company is willing to tolerate, and you say, great, for 1 hour of downtime, it's going to cost you X. Ooh, I don't want to pay X. Okay, great. For 1 day, it's only Y. Oh, Y is really affordable, but I don't want to be down that long. Okay, so let's find something in the middle. And again, it's having those risk-based conversations that say, forget about whether you're the victim of cybercrime. Let's talk about all of the different risks that can happen from IT and IT-related things that we can help you mitigate and solve for by putting the best practices in place, by having secure backups, by having redundancy and failover and business processes that allow you to continue that business continuity and disaster recovery planning. How do we get that whole overall risk of your business to be that entire profile to be lower?
In everything that you guys are talking about requires us to have conversations with our clients, right? Just have those discussions with them. If you sit back and just pray to God that nothing's going to happen, then, maybe your prayers will be answered, but that doesn't always work. And, at the end of the day, if you have those conversations with your client, then they understand it. They can get a better perspective of it. Doing those tabletop exercises, I think are, mind blowing to them. It allows them just to see, okay, this is real life. This is what could happen. And this is what we're going to have to do. So shifting gears a little bit, a lot of MSPs worry that once they step into compliance, that they're going to be stuck living in the life of being an auditor, right? And, how can they actually monetize compliance without becoming full-time consultants?
Yeah. So an MSP cannot own risk for a client, period,
Right.
end of story, right? They can help manage that risk. They can help provide tooling and technology and process and rigor around risk reduction, but they can't own that risk for the client. And so how do they get, step one is putting those processes in place, putting the policies, helping document what is there so that the clients understand what it is that they're doing and why they're doing it. And then working with the clients to say, at the end of the day, this is something that you own. Here are the list of tasks that I can help you manage, and here are the list of tasks that you have to do yourself. And I'll kind of play project manager to remind you and poke you to go do those things. But I can't tell you whether Dan should still have an account in your payroll system. Only you can tell me that. I can help you remove Dan's account when he shouldn't have it anymore. But, this is how we partner up and work together to reduce that risk profile. And again, use the technology to benefit us and automate away the pieces that can be automated, and then put the manual reminders in to have people go in and looking at stuff where they need to. Mike, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I'm actually going to push back on that question altogether, Dan, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you say that MSPs don't want to be full-time consultants, that's what they are, right? They're consulting the business. They're already consulting them. They're already in that role. They're providing them with IT guidance. They're saying, hey, assuming they're not just a break fix shop, right? If they're an actual MSP, they're already consultants. And so what a lot of MSPs are not doing is not in that consultative nature, actually engaging with the business, understanding the business, and providing IT guidance, let alone compliance guidance to align with the business. They're putting in technology, but not necessarily understanding all the business processes, what the business is trying to achieve. And I've said this a bunch of times. Jared's gonna smack me through the interwebs, but one of my biggest
I'm going to tell you to get on your soapbox right now. This is a soapbox conversation I'm ready for. Step up. I'm here for it.
One of my biggest pet peeves is how MSPs do QBRs in general, right? They come in, they say, hey, we blocked this many emails, we stopped this many things with our EDR. And then they come back and they say, hey, the businesses aren't engaged with us, they don't care. You're right, they don't. What businesses care about is what makes the business run. And so one of the things that I've been trying to talk to our partners about is for that next QBR, don't come in there with your statistics, bring them, that can be an appendix, whatever. but just come in and ask the business, hey, what are you trying to do over the next quarter? And let the business tell you what they're trying to do. And then you can come up with, hey, here's what we can do to make you successful. We can put in this new process, new technology, new whatever, to make what your goals are be more successful. Be more successful, more secure, be faster, be cheaper, whatever, right? And so now, again, going back to, that's your job, right, as the MSP, to be consulting them and saying, hey, here's how we make you as a business succeed. And then compliance and risk and all that kind of go hand in hand with that approach, right? Because now you can say, hey, you just told me what keeps you up at night is this operational risk or this human or personnel risk. Here's what we can do to help you with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And going to really what both of you guys are saying, and especially the one thing that Jared said a little bit ago, as far as, you can't own it for your client, because they do have to take responsibility. And I think the thing is, it carries both with the MSP and the client, that there's an assumption that because you are their IT provider, you are managing their IT, that you own it. And if you don't have the conversation with them, and tell me if you agree or disagree, but first and foremost, Mr. Client, who is your internal risk manager, right?
Yep.
And naming somebody, because if they don't name someone, and it doesn't matter, regardless of the size of the organization. Yeah, if it's a small organization, maybe it is the owner. Large organizations, there might be, and it doesn't have to be a full-time position, but somebody has to own that within the organization. Yep. And then it builds that mindset that, okay, this is ownership. This is a responsibility that we have as an organization. Isn't just on, ABC, MSP. It is on both of us. But at the end of the day, it's the client's business and it is their responsibility.
Yep.
Yeah. And Dan, I'll take that a step further. I would say, who's not just who is your internal risk manager, who is your internal risk officer or owner, right? Like, again, you want to put the word officer or owner in there because you want it to be somebody high enough up the food chain that when they say, we're going to do this, everybody says, great, and they get in line, right? If you've got your intern as your risk manager and they say, we need to do something, everybody's going to kind of laugh it off. When you have somebody at the top level of some executive buy-in for that risk program, you're going to go a lot further and a lot faster. And until you have that internal executive champion, I would say the client is probably not mature enough for you to be having those conversations with. Now, you can help guide them to finding who that risk owner should be and help them along that maturity journey to understand and take ownership. And again, it's having those conversations and putting things into their language. And, if it's you're talking to a restaurant and they don't want to worry about PCI compliance or they don't care about two-factor authentication. Hey, great, you're a bar. Do you have a bouncer? Okay, well, there's your physical security, right? Are you doing ID checks under a black light or scanning the barcode in the back? There's your two-factor, right? So you can use language that they are already familiar with about security protocols to help have those risk conversations and say, look, you are already doing things to protect your business. If you lose your liquor license, your business goes under. Guess what? If your POS gets hacked, your business goes under. Like if you can't take credit card payments, nobody carries cash anymore. Your business goes under also, right? So let me help you secure your POS the same way you're securing your liquor license, right? We're going to do this hand in hand. We're going to help you secure the things that matter to you and reduce the risk about the things that matter to you. And we're going to use your language to talk about those things. But guess what? You've agreed that protecting your business is important. So you now own that risk. And now we can have the conversation.
Yeah. I want to talk about this AI stuff. Have you guys heard about that? This AI. I mean,
I thought I thought it was like steak sauce A1. Is that not the same thing?
Exactly. Yes. I thought it was Al at first. So, but we are hearing more and more about AI-driven compliance tools. Some of these are trying to promise, the world and automating everything. And, some people say it's just hype. But what is your take on this? Can AI really make compliance easier, or is it just creating additional risk?
Yes. Yeah. So the short answer is yes. It is doing both. It is absolutely automating. Now, I shouldn't say all the things, right? There are things that forget about AI for a second here. Let's take automation as kind of a broader topic, and then we'll dig back into AI. automation can certainly help reduce complexity, reduce risk, reduce the overhead and the maintenance. Automation cannot solve all of your compliance problems, right? No amount of automation is going to tell you whether Dan should have an account in system X or not. A human has to get involved. No amount of automation is going to make sure that the automation is working correctly. Conversation I had with an AI company actually recently, where they're like, "Look, Jared, I've got my SOC 2 report." And I said, "That's amazing. Hey, who's your AI provider?" "Well, we're using the Azure AI Enclave." "Cool. You realize that Azure is not in your SOC 2 report."
Yeah.
So you've completely scoped out your entire AI provider from your SOC 2 report. So it's great that you have the SOC 2 report, but like all of the data processing agreement, the fact that like none of that stuff is in scope in your SOC 2, and you are an AI company that's leaning on the the Azure OpenAI Enclave. Like something is missing in all of this that is just totally bonkers here. But they're like, "Yeah, but my automated compliance tool is telling me that I'm fully compliant." Great. And for the tools that are in scope, you are, but ... And so this goes, again, let me tie it back into your question here. AI can absolutely be a game changer. AI can absolutely accelerate the journey. Automation and AI together can absolutely make things better and faster and more secure and more compliant. But AI and automation cannot be the only answer. You must have a human in the loop, regardless of how much AI, how much automation, anything else. The two things have to be hand in hand. So that's why I go back to, yes, there's hype, right? If somebody tells you AI is going to solve all of my problems for anything, they are full of baloney. I'll put it plainly. But if people are saying AI is going to help me go faster, sure, absolutely. AI helps me go faster every day. AI helps Mike go faster every day. I'm sure you're using AI on a daily basis to help you go faster. Right. But how many times have you seen AI get it almost right, but not quite right? And you have to step in and help out. You have to have that human in the loop still. And maybe someday that'll change. And what are we, October 2025? And so future me may look back at this and say, "Wow, Jared, you are so," but right now, today, AI is not the panacea. AI is not the solution to everything. It's a great tool that everybody can and should be using, but it cannot be the end all be all.
Great way to augment, not replace, for sure.
Yeah. The other piece that I would also say, and we've kind of seen this with AI tools that do like audit, right? They do the AI version of internal audit. So they will come in, they will conduct the audit. They are probably, even from what we've seen or heard, more reliable than paying an auditor to come in to do that internal audit, because they make less mistakes than the human does. But you then don't have that third party person who's doing the audit, that if there's an issue, you can say, "Oh, well, E&Y did our internal audit. They didn't find this," and E&Y is not going to come in and say, "Hey, PwC, no, this actually does pass muster or doesn't pass muster." There's no ownership of that, right? You can't offload some of that risk from the internal audit piece. So yeah.
Well, and AI is still non-deterministic, right? You give the same prompt to ChatGPT, and it's going to give you a different output every time. And so, yes, most of the time, the AI, to Mike's point, is going to be very effective at that internal audit. If you upload the same set of documents to it, it's going to have similar findings that are theoretically are going to be more thorough. But there is still the risk of hallucinations, and it's non-deterministic, meaning you give that same set of inputs, and you're going to get different outputs or slightly different outputs every time. And so you might find over 10, 20, 30 executions that run one found a deficiency in one area, and then you get to the version that has no deficiencies, and you're like, "Cool, my internal audit passed because I ran it enough times with the same set of inputs," right? And so, whereas a human auditor, when they find something, they're going to be able to ask questions, they're going to be able to have a real conversation with you, and they're going to be able to help you assess the risk and whether there's a real problem there that the AI may or may not be able to help you with. And we see this in a whole wide variety of things. I think the biggest area is I'm the developer. In our company, I write all of our code. I use AI all the time to help me accelerate my development process.
Yeah.
And I find stuff all the time where the AI produces code that is just not there. And so as a result, because I know that AI is only 80 or 90% accurate today with the code and the stuff that I am an expert in, the stuff that I'm not, like, I won't have it write a legal document without having a lawyer review that legal document, because I'm not a lawyer. I can't review that and know where I've missed something or where I was right. So this is where, AI is a huge accelerator and augmenter, but can't be a replacement today.
So I gotta write a quick note here. So do not blindly trust PowerShell scripts from AI to production environment. Okay, I got that. So,
yeah, look, it's the same thing as those PowerShell scripts that AI is generating are coming based off of training from like Stack Overflow, right? Do you trust that? Would you copy and paste something from Stack Overflow into your production environment? No.
Right.
Same thing has got to be true with AI, right?
Yeah.
It is wildly successful at making you believe that it is completely accurate. It is so confident in what it tells you, including when it tells you that it was wrong. Like, oh, Dan, you are so right. I made a mistake there. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, because sometimes I have to get angry, right? Sometimes I have to be like, are you kidding me? Like, OMG, you just told me to do this and it's not working. Oh, yeah, you're right. I totally was grabbing something from some other recent chat, yada, 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 and it's just, it is amazing, or, you go to another AI tool to have it tell you a prompt that the other one just isn't listening, right? You're doing some vibe coding and it's just like off the wall. And so, you go over to Claude or you go over to, Gemini or whatever. And you're like, all right, this other tool isn't listening to me. Can you tell me what it needs to know? Because I think maybe you two know the language better. But yeah, you gotta love AI, AI, L, A1, whatever you want to call it. But
takes off, baby.
But Dan, I have those conversations all the time with my kids, right? Hey, John in math class isn't listening to me. I'm having this issue. How do I navigate this issue? Right? It's the same thing.
Yes, exactly. Very, very much the same. So for our MSPs that are listening, there might be like, hey, this is all great. This sounds good, but I want to hear some real world examples. I want to hear something where an MSP has turned compliance into a growth engine. They've used it to shift on how they sell or how they've retained clients. Do you guys have any examples?
Yeah, we have a ton. So
how long do you have, Dan?
One of our partners, actually one of our first partners, realistically, once we pivoted into the channel, they're using this to really guide all those risk-based conversations, right? They're saying, cool, it's great that we're delivering policies for you now. We're working with you on that, but let's talk about what we can do for you, right? And they're winning all those conversations as far as, hey, we need to do MFA. We need to do, we need to make sure everything's encrypted. We need to, like, all of these things that they've been trying to push with their clients for years, and the clients have just been pushing back. Now they have a roadmap to say, hey, according to this compliance framework that you need to adhere to, you have to do this. And not only are we just telling you this, now it's on your compliance roadmap. It's on your risk register. We've assigned the risk to John, who's the CFO. John's aware of this now. He's being pinged about it now. We're going to figure out what's going to happen with this risk. Hey, we're going to accept this until 2026 and budget for it. Are we going to mitigate it and do this for some systems but not other systems? But now it's all being tracked in a place that both, again, because this is co-managed, right, between the client and the MSP, that the client has access to. So it's not in like the MSP's IT glue to say, hey, we talked to John and here's the meeting notes and we need to circle back to this next year, right? It's front and center for the client to see, for the client to sign off on, for the client to manage themselves, because again, the MSP cannot own their risk. And if they say, hey, we just can't afford to do this right now, we're going to do this in 2026, 2027, whatever, that's fine. It's on the risk register. It's being managed. It's being acknowledged. It's top of mind. It's not being forgotten. And when you do your quarterly risk review or annual risk review or whatever, take a look at all those risks and say, hey, what can we reprioritize? What can we move on? And so it's enabling them to grow through non-recurring revenue through projects to say, hey, we need to deploy this solution. So helping them grow through MRR, because now they're actually having those monthly, quarterly meetings with their clients to say, hey, here's where we are on our compliance journey. Here's where we are in our risk journey. Here's where we are on our third-party risk management, our supply chain, vendor risk management, whatever you call that piece of this. Here's where we are with our user audits. And all of it culminates in them being stickier with their clients. If another MSP comes in and they say, hey, we can undercut your MSP bill by $1,000 a month or whatever. Cool, but are you going to be able to talk to us about what is actually going to help us succeed as a business? Are you going to help us mitigate our organizational risk, not just the security risk or the compliance risk, but organizational risks? Are you going to be that partner that's going to sit there and say, hey, here's all your 365 users. Is this list correct? One of the reasons that we built the tracking of the user audits into the system is to build and forge that trust between the MSP and the client. How many times have you talked to an MSP and the MSP has said, hey, we just found out a guy's been gone for 6 months. And now the client's upset with us because we've been billing them for 6 months, even though it's not our fault. Like, we didn't know that the person was gone, right? And so now we're stuck with, do we pay them back? How do we handle the situation? Well, guess what? If you're sending them a monthly report of like, hey, here's your 365 users, is this correct?
Right.
No, why is John in here? We fired John 2 weeks ago. Cool. Let's clean this up on a monthly basis, not every year, not every 6 months, right? But the other piece is, hey, go audit your HR system, accounting system, systems we're not responsible for, right? We're not here to secure what we're responsible for. We're here for you to create a secure organization for yourself. And so you become a lot stickier. It's going to be a lot harder to get rid of you because, again, you're solving all these other organizational risks other than just, hey, I'm here to plug in your printer, make sure there's a firewall working, etc. You're there to enable their business.
So let me give a really specific example here also, Dan, right? So one of our MSP partners has a construction company as a client of theirs in the DC area. That construction company had won a contract with the Department of Defense to build a secure facility and needed to be NIST 800-171 compliant. And the MSP went to them and said, look, if you want to make the entire organization NIST 800-171 compliant, it's going to be a ton of work, but let's talk about this specific, like we can create just an enclave for just the section of the business that's responsible for this particular contract. And we can save you a ton of money and become a strategic partner. And so they helped that one portion of the business at a significantly reduced cost for the overall construction company become compliant and win the contract and secure the business. And at the next quarterly review, as they were going in for that QBR, they said, here's what we've done, and let's talk about what the rest of the business is doing. The guy said, we love what you've done here. We love it so much, in fact, that some of those best practices we want to start adopting across the board. Is there anything that you can recommend? And they said, yeah, actually, we can. We have the NIST cybersecurity framework that is a much lighter weight version, but still starts building that momentum and that those policies and that framework, and so that you can be more secure across the entire business. And so they didn't just win the small portion of the business, and I say small very loosely here because 800-171 is still a lot of work, right? This is a non-trivial exercise for them and a pretty significant amount of revenue for the MSP, but it turned into a much bigger engagement. And again, it built that trust. And so now that client that was paying them some relatively small amount of money grew to a little bit bigger because of the NIST 800-171 piece, which turned into a NIST CSF engagement across the entire organization. And it's just continued to snowball and build in additional services. And then again, to Mike's point, hey, guess what? You need to have more a better backup solution. So we're going to sell you more backup, right? And so you're building MRR across your entire stack. You're selling them from the silver tier to the gold tier to the platinum tier of your security services. You're helping them build all these different things. And so all of a sudden it's the land and expand model to grow that business with your client strategically and as that trusted partner.
Yeah, and I think essentially at the end of the day, you're building structure around this conversation. You're building structure around it that is more than just a conversation of, hey, you should
Yep.
do this or you should do that. You've got something, tangible that you've put together that allows them to see what this is, what the roadmap looks like, what the plan of attack is going to be. And I think they take it more seriously than just a random conversation.
Yep.
And that's the difference between being able to monetize it as well.
Yep.
Because, if you don't have a structure built around that, I don't think the clients take it as seriously because they just feel like you're just trying to do something that doesn't mean anything. And I also want to, I guess, for any MSPs that are listening right now, what is one practical first step that they can take today to start turning compliance into a true business advantage for them?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we talk about is think about yourself like your financial advisor, right? Your financial advisor isn't coming in and scaring you to say, hey, Dan, if you don't start investing today, you're not going to retire, right? They come in and they say, hey, Dan, let's talk about what your future looks like. And, at what age do you want to retire? What do you want that retirement to look like, right? They help you build that picture, that vision of what retirement looks like and say, great, here's how we're going to invest in you or like have you invest in yourself to get to that retirement package you're looking for. If you think about this, if you take that same principle, I can come in and be the boogeyman that says, hey, if you don't do this, you're going to get hacked. And I can try to scare the bejesus out of you. Or I can say, hey, Dan, tell me what a secure, like functional business looks like. Let me help you get there and build that successful business. And you treat that compliance and security program like your 401k, right? And you become that advisor that is truly a strategic partner. And so that what is the one step? Change your mindset. Don't be the IT service provider that is just providing a good, the commoditized version. Be the IT service advisor, the person who is using IT and cybersecurity and compliance as a means to an end. The end is what does the future look like for your business? What does everything MSP look like in 5 years? Let me tell you how I can help you get there. Let me tell you how investing small amounts today will compound over time and help you get your business to where you want it to be. Oh, you want an exit? You want to be acquired? Great. Let's talk about how we get your multiple from 3x to 5x. Let's talk about how we improve your EBITDA. Let's talk about how we build that business successfully using IT as one of the mechanisms that you're going to like springboard yourself to get there. It's that mindset shift. That's the biggest thing that I think an MSP can change is stop being the having that, and I'll call this the legacy IT mindset, right? Stop having that legacy IT mindset, which is I'm going to get a ticket, I'm going to complete a ticket. Start having the strategic advisor mindset that is, here's where we're going to go and how we're going to get there.
And the big focus too is just shifting that conversation to the business outcome, the business risk. It just so far from all the technical stuff. If we want to engage any of our clients, whether they're owners or leaders in that organization, we need to talk their talk. And it is 100% about them. It's 100% about their business, and that is where that buy-in will come. You guys have brought a lot of great insight today. I greatly appreciate all of it. And but before we wrap things up, you guys have some great resources available that I'd love to have you share with us.
Yeah, if you go to our website, blacksmithinfosec.com/forgingtrust, you can download a copy of our ebook. You can shoot me an email, jkasner@blacksmithinfosec.com or info@blacksmithinfosec.com. I'll just mail you a physical copy of it if you want the full length version instead of the ebook is 25 pages, but send you the full length version that's available on Amazon. But yeah, we're happy to help out. We talked about the Get Nisty podcast earlier. We are trying as hard as we can to demystify compliance and cybersecurity for the MSPs, to talk about how to sell and secure not just your clients, but also your business as well.
Yeah, the other thing the other thing I would say is if you go to blacksmithinfosec.com/ask, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them there. That's where we take some of the questions and address them during the Get Nisty podcast. So again, if you have something that you want us to talk about, or if you want to join us for our podcast to talk and ask questions, that would be another good way.
Awesome. Gentlemen, you guys did a fantastic job of helping to open things up, and I really appreciate both your time and your talent. And for everybody listening today, be sure to subscribe to The Stack so you can hear more excellent conversations like today's. And until next time, everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to The Stack.